Think about the most valuable thing you own. The thing you'd keep for the right situation. The moment where nothing else had worked, where every other option had already failed. Most people never use it. The right moment never arrives, or never feels right enough. And the thing stays in the drawer. The thing you never spend is the thing that never loses what it's worth. Kenta Kobashi had a move like that. The burning hammer. An inverted death drop. He lifts you face up into a fireman's carry, flips you headfirst toward the canvas, and drives the crown of your skull directly into the mat at full velocity. There is no safe way to take it. Every wrestler who received it entered the fall trusting Kobashi to find the half-inch of rotation that separated a wrestling finish from a spinal injury. He always found it. The move existed at the outermost edge of what a human body could absorb. You don't reach for something like that casually. In a career spanning 25 years, across thousands of matches, in front of millions of people, Kobashi used it 7 times. 7 total. Nobody kicked out. 7 uses across 25 years. Every single one arrived with the weight of inevitability. And when the hammer came, the building went quiet. The count was just a formality. The verdict had already landed.
Selling souvenir at the University of Georgia in Athens.
Goldberg's verdict took 13 months to build. July 6th, 1998, the Georgia Dome. 41,000 people, and they have come to watch one thing happen to one man. Hulk Hogan is the most protected wrestler alive. 15 years on top. He does not lose clean, ever. And everyone in that building knows it. Goldberg is 13 months into his professional career. 107 matches, 107 wins. A streak built on a single promise the audience has watched him keep every single week. Spear, jackhammer.
It ain't who's left, it's who's next! Hey!
Done. That was the formula. The match is short, Hogan does Hogan things. The leg drop lands. Goldberg kicks out. And 41,000 people make a sound they had not planned to make. Because a move that has ended careers for 15 years has just been absorbed by a man who has been in the business for 13 months. The crowd has understood what that means before they have words for it. Then Goldberg comes off the ropes. The spear hits. Then Goldberg has him up, vertical, dead weight in the air, and the jackhammer drives Hogan into the mat. 41,000 people arrive at the same moment simultaneously, releasing 107 weeks of accumulated certainty onto a single finish. The sound comes before the bodies move, before anyone decides to stand, before the count starts. That is what a great finishing move sounds like when it lands on the right man at the right moment. This is the story of how professional wrestling earned that belief and then spent 30 years losing it, match by match, year by year. The finishing move wasn't an art form first. It was a logistical solution. In the territory era, before Vince McMahon's national expansion, before pay-per-view, before any of it, professional wrestling ran on weekly loops. The same 2 men worked the same match across 5 different towns in 5 nights. Memphis Monday, Louisville Tuesday, Evansville Wednesday, Nashville Thursday. The finish had to look irrefutable every night. Word of mouth was the only advertising that mattered. If a finish looked weak in one town, the next town already knew. Promoter Bill Watts made the standard explicit for his referees. Count what you see. His exact instruction to anyone who worked for him, I don't care if that son of a bitch has a heart attack in the middle of the ring and dies. You will roll him on top of you for the 3 count. The count was law. Once the finish landed, the matter was settled. The referee counted what he saw. Nobody wrote this rule down. Nobody had to. The whole fiction of professional wrestling, the belief that what the crowd was watching was a real contest, depended on the finish meaning something absolute. Out of this necessity, something else grew. The finishing move became identity. The move and the person became the same object.
Uh-oh, look out. Oh.
Jake Roberts invented the DDT by accident.
Pushed me into the corner and he steps on my left foot. And when he did, that caused me to fall flat on my ass.
The crowd went quiet with genuine shock. Roberts thought, that'll work. From that point forward, it was his. Nobody kicked out. Not once. If Roberts locked in that face lock, every building in the world leaned forward, because they knew what was coming and they knew there was nothing on the other side of it. Roberts addressed what happened to the move decades later, after watching wrestler after wrestler use it as a transitional spot. His response was the entire argument of this video in one sentence.
Every time somebody does it, what do people say?
That's Jake the Snake's move.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if Jake did it, what would happen?
He got him in a DDT.
They wouldn't be able to kick out.
That's right.
On top hooks the leg, and Jake the Snake has won it.
So therefore, Jake must be better than that guy.
Here is what that discipline looked like across the best of them. Not the mechanics, the rooms. The Tombstone. The Undertaker lifts you upside down and holds you there while the crowd processes what is about to happen. You look like a headstone before you've touched the ground.
Tombstone! This way! No! Tombstone Piledriver!
The pin is not a pin. He crosses your arms over your chest, rolls his eyes back, waits. The ring is a cemetery. The 3 count is paperwork.
What's your name? Stan.
Sweet chin music. Michaels stomps his foot in the corner and every building becomes a countdown. 4 seconds of the crowd knowing what the victim doesn't. Pat Patterson saw it before Michaels fully understood it. The super kick was being used as a setup move when it had more stopping power than the finish it was leading to. The stomp became a metronome. The crowd kept time to it.
Uh-oh, wait a minute, look at this!
The Stone Cold Stunner. September 22nd, 1997, Madison Square Garden. Vince McMahon, still primarily the announcer, the corporate face, tries to reason with Austin about a neck injury.
Upset not being able to compete, they can understand that, but don't break the law.
Austin listens, nods,
You can kiss my ass.
kicks him in the stomach, and drops him. The building detonated. Working Man drops the billionaire. 1 gut kick, 3 seconds. The whole Attitude Era in shorthand.
He's destroying bodies.
The F5. WrestleMania 30, April 2014. A building full of people went quiet for 2 full minutes because a man absorbed a move in the world they had constructed across 21 years of watching, collapsed in 3 seconds. The Undertaker's undefeated WrestleMania record was over. The silence was not shock, not grief, not celebration. It was the sound of 75,000 nervous systems that had been taught one thing, encountering another thing that had just become true.
It's the most electrifying move in sports entertainment today! Oh, the people's elbow!
The people's elbow. Mechanically, nothing. An average man dropping a normal elbow on someone already lying flat.
I believe the first time Rock did the people's elbow was in a match where we were trying to make Taker crack.
The Undertaker never broke. The crowd lost their minds anyway. They didn't watch it. They generated it. The elbow pad toss. The arm wave. The run. Each element added because the crowd reaction told Rock it was working. They felt like they threw it. That shared ownership between performer and audience is an asset nothing in wrestling can manufacture from scratch.
And Christian RKO from the Viper!
The RKO. A counter, not a setup. The match you thought was happening suddenly isn't. We'll come back to this one. What all of these moves share is the same thing the Territory Era enforced with the authority of law. The finish ends it. The count is a formality. When the move lands, the matter is settled. That collective understanding, maintained through consistent protection, is the only thing any finishing move is actually made of. And when that understanding is intact, when the protection has held, and the audience has been taught over years that this motion means one thing, the room before the count arrives. The building goes quiet not because nothing is happening, but because something already has. The verdict has landed before the referee moves. That silence is the asset, not the move. The silence the move can produce. Which raises the question of what the ownership actually is. What Michaels built across decades. What Orton maintains with every refused kickout. What the vault contains. At the level beneath character and ritual. They didn't read cognitive science papers. They watched crowds, filmed matches, noticed which moments made buildings loud and which made buildings hold their breath, and worked backwards.
One flaw in Carlito's. Oh my God!
What they discovered, case by case, was a simple truth. The human nervous system starts building the prediction before the event arrives. The sharper the prediction, the bigger the release when it resolves. They called it setup. They called it psychology. The mechanism was the same every time. Build anticipation before the contact, not after. Make the crowd feel what's coming. Let them live inside the knowledge of what's about to happen.
Kane trying to crawl up, and there's no mercy in that face.
The Undertaker's Tombstone ritual is the most architecturally sophisticated in wrestling history because it operates in deliberate stages. The hoist. The window begins to open. The hold. He extends it deliberately, letting their nervous systems fully ramp up. The hold does nothing to the opponent. It does everything to the audience. Then the drop, and the pin that is the funeral. The window discharges completely across those 3 seconds of burial. Michaels' ritual is a countdown. Each stomp is another increment of ramp up, until by the time he launches, the crowd has been inside the window for 4 or 5 seconds, longer than almost any other finish. This is why Sweet Chin music still lands differently than any other superkick 30 years later.
Ian, I'm going to call it now. Superkick!
The Young Bucks have thrown approximately 10,000 superkicks. The mechanics are the same. The window is not.
And the fight!
Orton's ritual is the most disruptive because it arrives mid-sequence, always as a counter, in the fraction of a second between the start of an opponent's move and its resolution. The audience is inside one window. The RKO fires, and it resolves a completely different prediction.
And the rookie! Teamwork!
Before the first one has closed. WrestleMania 31. Seth Rollins launches for the curb stomp. Orton catches him mid-air and drives him face first into the mat, before Rollins has completed the thought. The building understood before the referee moved. 12 years of protection had taught them what this landing means.
Dallas, boy, he's putting on the time.
DDP pushed it one step further. He studied his own footage frame by frame, adjusted the timing, added the hand sign. Eventually, tens of thousands of people would form the diamond and scream, "Bang!" in the fraction of a second before the cutter landed. The crowd was generating the window themselves, opening it, holding it, closing it simultaneously. When the cutter landed, it was 60,000 nervous systems releasing at exactly the same instant. Now, take that belief away. Take away the certainty that this move, if it connects, ends the fight. The window stays closed. The ramp up does not happen. The move lands. The count begins. And the brain is processing a checkpoint rather than a verdict. The crowd still makes noise. They have been conditioned to make noise at near falls. But the noise is different. One is a release. The other is an acknowledgement. The room before the count cannot arrive if the window never opened. And the window only opens if the audience believes. And belief requires exactly what Kobashi practiced for 25 years. Every culture has understood this without being taught it. The rarer the thing, the heavier it lands. Dragons are always singular. Every mythology that survived long enough to produce a legend kept it that way. The dragon comes once, from outside the known world and reorganizes everything around its arrival. A world with many dragons has a dragon problem. Taxonomy, where there should be terror. Legends grow from encounters people carry for a lifetime.
Sword in his eyes. He comes back to the...
This is why Goldberg's streak worked, and why most people who study it misread it. Most of his matches lasted under 5 minutes. Spear, jackhammer, pin. Clean finishes, single movements, each one landing with the same weight. Watching Goldberg was watching a man complete a ritual. And yet, on July 6th, 1998, 41,412 people filled the Georgia Dome in Atlanta to watch him challenge Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
This man, I'm going
The biggest star in the business, in the building that WCW had turned into its cathedral. And the crowd didn't just cheer. They made the kind of noise that fills the chest. The certainty was concentrating the drama. Every match that had ended in under 5 minutes was a deposit. The jackhammer needed to feel inevitable. Inevitability, compounded over 107 matches, produces its own gravity. When the streak finally ended at Starrcade 1998, Scott Hall in a security uniform, a cattle prod from outside the ring, Nash pinning him with a single powerbomb, the arena went silent, grieving. The response of people who had completely trusted something and watched it be taken. That grief was only available because every match in the streak had told the same true story. This ends the same way every time, without exception. The contrast is Sting's Scorpion Deathlock. In 1990, the move was a verdict. Opponents who got locked in, tapped, or passed out, or got counted down. The submission meant something because it held. By 1997, Sting was applying it to main eventers who muscled through, reverse position, countered to their own finisher. The exact same move, applied to the exact same body part, but by the second or third time an opponent fought through it in the same match, the crowd had reclassified it. A spot, something to build through and absorb. The Burning Hammer was immune to this because Kobashi refused to let it become ordinary. The move existed in every match he entered as a fact about reality, a loaded weapon that stayed holstered, and the dread of it was its own drama. The audience understood what happened on the rare occasion they saw it. 7 uses across 25 years. Every single one was a full stop. Nobody decided this should happen. There was no meeting, no memo, no point at which a room full of people agreed to trade the silence for the arithmetic. What happened was slower and stranger and more human than that. What happened was a heist. Every person who took from the vault had a receipt. The star needed protecting. The villain was too popular to lose clean. The match needed a peak. The runtime demanded a near fall. All of it defensible. All of it spent from the same account. The vault does not know about justifications. It tracks the balance. The first thief was star protection. Hulk Hogan. The Hulk up, the spot where the hero shakes off the villain's best, points the finger, runs the ropes. The first time a finish landed on Hogan and accomplished nothing, it was extraordinary. The crowd didn't know what to do with it. That's the miracle version. By the 100th Hulk up, the crowd knew exactly what to do with it. Wait for the big boot and the leg drop, and go home. The exception had become the formula. Nobody noted the moment the first became the second. The second thief came with the NWO. The heels were selling more merchandise than the heroes, which meant protecting them commercially required protecting them in the ring. Finishing moves started landing on people who mattered and producing near falls instead of conclusions. They stopped being endings. They became the part of the match right before the ending. Then came the exception that was also a masterpiece, and that's the most dangerous thing an exception can be. WrestleMania 17, Houston, April 1st, 2001. But here's what made it work. Every kickout served the story. Austin couldn't put Rock away cleanly because the match was about what Austin was willing to become to keep the title. Every kickout pushed him one step further past his moral limit until he was standing over the Rock with a steel chair. Strip the story away, and you have a sequence of moves that shouldn't have failed, failing. The story is what made the exception legitimate. The problem with a perfect exception is what it produces. Younger wrestlers study the greatest WrestleMania match ever made and copied the scaffolding without the structure. Multiple kickouts became the template for importance. The floor got mistaken for the ceiling. The third thief was the clock, and the most invisible of all of them. For most of wrestling history, pay-per-view events ran inside rigid satellite blocks. 3 hours, hard cutoff. Main events that rarely cracked 25 minutes. The clock was protecting the finishing move without anyone understanding it as protection.
Today we are launching the first network of its kind.
February 2014, the WWE Network launched. The hard stop disappeared. Match times inflated. When your main event runs 40 minutes, the only thing left to manufacture drama in the back third is surviving the finisher.
Got out of it once.
The clock was the gold in the vault. Nobody knew it was load-bearing until they removed it. What that looked like in practice. WrestleMania 34. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. The F5 had silenced 75,000 people in the same building type 10 years earlier when it ended The Undertaker's streak. At WrestleMania 34, it was an obstacle, a step in the sequence. Reigns absorbed 5 of them.
Fifth F5 on Roman Reigns.
Not to build towards something, but because the match had time left. Somewhere in the arena, a group of fans batted a beach ball around for several minutes. Contraband inflatables more engaging than the Universal Championship match happening in the ring. The crowd in New Orleans chanted, "This is awful." They were not wrong about what they were watching. They were watching arithmetic. The year after, Rollins beat Lesnar at WrestleMania 35 with different problem, same structure. One established that one wasn't enough. 6 months later, at Hell in a Cell, Rollins faced The Fiend and threw that same move somewhere between 11 and 14 times. The Fiend absorbed every one. The referee eventually stopped the contest because Rollins had produced a sledgehammer, and there was no other resolution available. The crowd in Sacramento chanted, Rollins came through the curtain ready, by his own account, to physically attack Vince McMahon. The curb stomp had traveled from WrestleMania weapon to irrelevant obstacle in 6 months. Same move, different meaning, because meaning is not in the mechanics.
It makes sense where people have a different feeling about it.
It is in the belief, and belief had been spent. The 6th thief was a personal grievance, and the most clarifying case of all. AEW Dynamite, October 27th, 2021. CM Punk, 2 months back from 7 years away from the business.
Bobby Fish! Oh!
He hits the go to sleep on Bobby Fish. The referee's hand hits the mat 3 times. The match is over. Bobby Fish kicks out after the 3 count. After the hand has completed the 3rd slap, he kicks out. Fish explained himself later. He was petty about the GTS. The move was created by Kenta, a Japanese wrestler whose work Punk had absorbed and borrowed from without publicly crediting. Fish decided, on this particular night, in front of this particular live crowd, on national television, that his grievance was sufficient reason to override the contract. A finishing move only looks devastating because the person receiving it agrees to stay down. That agreement is the entire architecture. When one person decides a grievance supersedes it, the fiction breaks in front of the audience on the exact night that was supposed to announce something. The vault does not have a special reserve for grievances. The balance
after the match is when I have a hard time respecting my opponent.
The receipt was real, and the silence had gone with it, replaced by arithmetic. The crowd counting kickouts the way you count down from a long number. Not afraid, not invested, just keeping track. Everything falls apart. You watch a finisher land, and your brain runs a checklist before your body processes the impact. How far into the match are we? Is this the right card position? Has the heel had his heat segment? You know, before the referee's hand completes the count, whether this will end it. You are auditing. The crowd wasn't trained out of caring. They were trained out of feeling. And a crowd that can't feel the landing can't feel the loss of it either. Every kickout is a small victory against belief. 30 years of them, made by people doing individually rational things that all pushed in the same direction. A language doesn't lose a distinction in a single conversation. The gradient wins through accumulation, which is what makes it invisible while it's happening, and obvious once it's done. AEW launched in 2019 with a stated mandate: wins and losses matters. Finishes that feel final. In their best moments, they prove the alternative is real.
Feet. Whoa! Shoulders are down.
Kenny Omega's one-winged angel has never been kicked out of in AEW. At Full Gear 2021, Hangman Page spent 25 minutes preventing Omega from lifting him into the electric chair position, not surviving the landing, avoiding it entirely, because surviving was not available.
Angel! No, Hangman escaped! He escaped!
The tools are not broken. Then, January 2024, Samoa Joe's Muscle Buster, decades of protection across multiple promotions. Hook absorbed a second and stood straight up. Joe addressed the backlash with mock horror.
I thought it was damn travesty myself. I agree with y'all. It was ridiculous, and I can't believe it happened, and it's disgusting, and it's wrong. Let's get together. Man, we get a petition. Where's the petition? I haven't seen a petition yet. Are y'all serious about this?
He was joking, but when a veteran is unbothered by a rookie absorbing his most lethal weapon at the count of 1, the era of protection is already over. The joke confirmed what the room already felt. Tony Khan decides wins and losses. The moment-to-moment sits with the wrestlers. AEW was built on creative freedom, which means every wrestler is individually chasing the pop, the 5-star rating, the match of the year conversation. Without central authority enforcing limits on that calculus, the gravity of incentives pulls toward more. Another near fall. One more kickout. AEW did not fail to protect finishers because they did not care. They failed because caring is not a system. A finishing move is a threshold, the half second before the count, when the room understands the contest is already over. That is what the silence is. Over 30 years, the finishing move has been reclassified as a waypoint, not a place where things change, a place you pass through on the way to somewhere else. The difference between a threshold and a waypoint is invisible from the outside. Both look like a finishing move landing. The difference is entirely in what the audience believes happens next. Finisher credibility accrues through discipline and loses value through use. Nobody owns the account. Nobody is accountable when it depletes. When it empties, the silence goes with it. Some people fought the entropy. Not many. But they exist. And watching them is watching something different happen in a crowd. Because when the consequence is real, the fear is real. And you can hear it. Start with Cesaro, because the reason nobody discusses him in this conversation is exactly the point. From his main roster debut in April 2012 through early 2014, 22 months.
Cesaro! It's Greg!
The neutralizer was not kicked out of. Not on free television, not on pay-per-view, not in squash matches, not in title matches. The move landed and the match ended every time. With no institutional support, on a roster where finisher credibility was being eroded at every other level by a man who never headlined WrestleMania, nobody gave him the booking moment that would have cashed the asset. The vault was maintained. The withdrawal never came. That is not a failure of protection. That is a failure of the business around the protection. The lesson? This is available to anyone, on any level of the card, willing to refuse kickouts for 22 months, until the audience's model has updated to match the truth.
Oh my God! End of days!
Baron Corbin protected his finishing move for 6 years. The end of days, not visually spectacular, just a finish that ended matches without exception. Top-tier opponents, comedic personas, mid-card runs, the streak held regardless.
Where he wants him. End of day! McIntyre kicked it!
At WrestleMania 38, Drew McIntyre kicked out. First time after 6 years. Corbin said afterward,
The WrestleMania came and I was told that was happening, and I was not thrilled by any means. It was not my call, and we did it, and it's done. So that's all I can say.
The building found out how much they had believed it in the moment it stopped being true. 6 years of deposits, 1 withdrawal, a crowd discovering their own investment. Randy Orton has a rule. He will not hit 3 RKOs to win a match. His exact words in 2024,
I'll never hit a guy with 3 RKOs to cover him and pin him. I'm not going to dilute my finish. That is always going to be a kill shot, and I can hit it out of nowhere.
The part that gets missed is institutional. Early in his career, when opponents lobbied to kick out of the RKO for their own credibility,
and Vince had a huge hand to play, because when I would be wrestling somebody and I was younger and they would want to kick out of my finish, Vince would pull me aside and say, we're not going to do that. We're not going to let that happen.
Individual conviction plus institutional authority, held simultaneously across 2 decades. That combination is what the AEW case study proves is necessary. Individual conviction alone, distributed without enforcement, erodes. The RKO in 2026 produces certainty when it lands because institutional authority backed him every time someone in a room argued for the exception. The proof of concept was already there. A championship changed hands without the finish being kicked out of. The move's protection intact. Both things happened at once. The tools are not broken. The silence is still there. The account can still be maintained. It requires only the one thing the business keeps refusing to treat as non-negotiable: the decision to protect the finish absolutely, backed by someone with the authority to say no when the room argues for the exception. Roland Barthes watched professional wrestling in 1957 and understood the whole point immediately. It is the spectacle of justice made visible. The villain does wrong. The hero suffers. And then, in a single, unmistakable physical act, the world corrects itself. The 3 count is not a game mechanic. It is the moral universe asserting its reality. Cause and effect, completing in front of witnesses. You cannot make justice feel just if the audience is timing it. The word legendary used to mean the thing that had passed through time and kept its power. Open any sports broadcast and count the seconds before you hear it applied to something from last week. The form of the thing, the gesture without the referent. Hook kicked out of the Muscle Buster at 1. Cody Rhodes hits the Cross Rhodes 4, 5 times in every major match. The crowd counts along because they already know the number. And once you know the number, you are doing arithmetic, not watching a contest. The video game put 3 executions required for a pinfall and called it an accurate simulation. Seth Rollins threw his finisher 14 times in 1 match, and the referee stopped the contest anyway. Each decision was defensible in the room where it was made. The sum of them is disenchantment. What do we owe? The debt that accrues not to a person, but to the thing itself, to the gesture that has been kept meaningful through accumulated care, and that only exists at all because someone, in each of the moments where it was easier not to, decided to protect it.
From where the product has evolved to, I was trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, because now it's just like finishes, they just don't mean anything.
The caring, the sustained, active caring, is what kept that room available at all.
3 most deadly, dangerous letters in sports entertainment. RKO!
Kobashi used the burning hammer 7 times. He understood that the weight of a consequence is entirely in how seriously you take it, that the weight of the landing is the product of every occasion you chose not to land it, that 7 means something because of all the times the number could have been 8, 9, 10. And the answer was, not yet. This has not earned the real thing. 7 uses, 0 kickouts, 25 years. That is a man who believed in consequences. And the audience believed him, completely. The way you believe something that has never once given you a reason to doubt. And in the matches where he carried that move into the ring, and the crowd felt it present in the room like a fact about reality, they were afraid of what the move represented. The thing that happens when everything catches up with you. The ending that does not have another ending behind it. We have been softening that ending for 30 years. 1 kick out at a time. one survivable consequence at a time. The crowd adapted. They learned to call the arithmetic suspense. They went home mostly satisfied, mostly entertained, mostly fine. Mostly fine is not what the silence is for. The silence is for the moment the consequence landed and the room understood, before being told that what it had just witnessed was real, that the thing it was watching had stakes, that the ending was the ending. Somewhere, Kobashi is still leaving the hammer in the drawer, and the room is still waiting.